When life brings the blah, add more yabba dabba do with some tasty fruity pebbles. Early morning meeting, blah. Someone brought the pebbles, yabba dabba do. Run errands, blah. Head to the store for pebbles, yabba dabba do. Fruity pebbles, less blah, more yabba dabba do. Pick up Pebbles cereal today. Yabba dabba do and the Flintstones and all related characters and elements. Copyright and trademark Hanna-Barbera.
For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac extra value meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, Boardwalk People! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for us. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Chris Cichon. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. We're going to be chatting with him about how the Orioles might have the chance to be able to play spoiler on some of these American League playoff teams, how the American League playoff picture is so murky in general, the outlook of the Orioles, and so much more in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever, and that 100% of gambling transactions do indeed get approved. When you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Been a bit shaky for the Cubs recently. They got the job done on Friday, but not on Saturday. 5-4 the final as the Rays. They out-hit the Cubs 14-6. They go just 2 of 12 with men in scoring position, but the 2 home runs put them over the top. Junior Caminero in the 8th inning off of Porter Hodge, 43rd home run season. Then Nick Fortes off of Mr. Brad Keller in the 9th inning, his 5th home run of the campaign. As for the Cubs, Colin Reyes at hip parade to giving an okay start. 3 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Drew Pomeranz from their pair of outside the bullpen squirrels, Caleb Thielbar, squirrels inning, and then Hodge and Keller both come in for an inning apiece. Both give up a solo home run. You did have Moises Ballesteros get his first career home run, that off of Drew Rasmussen. Then Garrett Clevenger gives one up to Michael Busch, 27th home run of the campaign. Rasmussen gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings, including that bomb. Griffin Jacks, Brian Baker both give you a scoreless inning. Clevenger gives up this home run in his inning of work, and Pete Fairbanks had men on first and third with no outs in the 9th inning, and Houdini's his way out without giving up a single run as the Cubs squandered that opportunity and squandered a win opportunity. For the Blue Jays, they have been your top over team in all of baseball, 81 overs, 61 unders, and 6 pushes, and it took 4 runs in the 9th inning and 6 runs overall in the final 2 innings to be able to get the over, but the Blue Jays get the win by a count of 5-4 as the Orioles bullpen just collapsed. Tomoyuki Sugano, solid start, gives up a solo home run over the course of 6 innings of work. Edison Barger, 20th home run of the season. Max Scherzer, not too bad himself, 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. From there, for the Blue Jays, you had Tommy Nance give you a scoreless inning. Eric Lauer and Serenity Dominguez combined for 2 innings. Lauer gives up a run along the way, and Braden Fisher gives up a solo home run in his inning of work to Kobe Mayo, 8th home run of the season. Then for the Orioles, you had Rico Garcia throw it not over the mountains, but over the plate for a scoreless inning. Cade Stout, a run give it up in 2/3 of an inning. Keegan Aiken, a run give it up in 2/3 of an inning. And Yanier Cano, don't you know, he gave up 2 runs, one of which was earned. He was hurt by a Samuel Basallo catcher's interference call, but gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned. Gives up the RBI that ended the game to don't call his name, Oleander Kirk. So the Blue Jays persevere. The Pittsburgh Pirates were able to persevere as well, 5-1. They take down the Washington Nationals as Bubba Chandler, really nice start here. Young Gun gives up 1 run in 6 innings. Carmen Molodzinski, 2 scoreless innings. Dennis Santana, scoreless inning of his own. And Jared Trollo off of Sunkusi Ogasara, his 6th home run of the campaign for the Washington Nationals. Bullpen once again was not necessarily so great. You had Cole Henry give up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Ogasara gives up that home run in his inning work. Jackson Rutledge and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Clayton Beater is scoreless inning. And squander what was a really nice start from Andrew Alvarez. 6 scoreless innings out of him. And for the Nationals, not much doing at the plate, only 3 total hits. For the Detroit Tigers, they're your second best over team in all baseball. 80 overs, 63 unders, and 6 pushes, and it took extra innings, but you got there with the over, and you got there with the Miami Marlins. 6-4, they take down Detroit as Charlie Morton, not long for this game, gives up 4 walks in 4 innings, only 2 runs though, and then from there, Troy Melton gives up a solo home run, gives up just 1 run over the course of 3 innings, as it was home runs number 2 and 3 of the campaign for Mr. Troy Johnson, and for Johnson, his second home run would end up being the game winner that came off of Rafael Montero, who was Rafael Montero Bull, comes in the 11th inning, gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned after Tommy Canley, 8 scoreless inning, and Will Vest was able to supply 2 scoreless innings, and Gary Carpenter, he got his 25th home run season. That comes off of Jansen Junk. I believe that this was his 8th straight start, giving up 3+ runs. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. From there, though, the bullpen was pretty rock solid. Michael Peterson, great name, he gives up a unearned run in the 11th inning, but 1 1/3 innings allows that 1 run. Josh Simpson, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels, Gay Gibson, Lake Bakar, Calvin Fauché, all able to give you a scoreless inning. You had plenty of scoreless innings from the Cleveland Guardians. 3-1, they're able to take down the Chicago White Sox, as for the Southsiders, Davis Martin gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a home run, as going deep it was one Mr. CJ Kafis, 4th home run season, then John Kensey Noel off of Frazier Allard, his 4th home run of the campaign for Allard. He gives up that home run in his inning work. Tyler Gilbert, 2 scoreless innings, and for the Cubs, Parker Misick, the young gun, really nice start. Does give up 7 hits, but just 1 run in 6 innings. Eric Sabrowski, Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith are able to turn a scoreless inning for the Philadelphia Phillies. They continue to be pretty darn dominant at home. 8-6, they're able to take down the Kansas City Royals. As for the Royals, this is not what Ryan Berger was looking for. Gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, but Al Zerpa gave up 3 runs and he only went 1 inning, and he gave up a home run to Kyle Schwarber. A Schwarbomb for his 51st home run season, and Brandon Marsh, 10th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Taylor Clark. For Clark, he gives up that home run in a 1/3 of an inning. Jonathan Bolin, he gives up a run in an inning. Sammy Long, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Lucas Ursich, a scoreless inning. And Salvador Perez does go deep twice off of Taiwan Walker. 26th and 27th home runs of the campaign. Walker gives up 4 runs in 5 innings, but bullpen from there did their job. Matt Strom, David Robertson both give up a run in an inning, but Yohan Duran and Tanner Banks both are able to end a scoreless inning. You had the Mets loser now 8th straight game, 3-2. The Texas Rangers get the job done. Mets are now in danger of missing the playoffs, as for Texas, Patrick Corbin, he had the bases loaded in the first inning, weaseled his way out of it, gave up just 1 earned run in 4 1/3 innings. From there, the bullpen holds it down, as Hobie Milner does give up a solo home run in 1 1/3 innings. Juan Soto, 40th home run of the campaign, but Cole Winn, a pair of outs outside the bullpen squirrels. Chris Martin, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Phil Matone, John Armstrong both get a pair of outs scoreless as well, and for the New York Mets, pretty well pitched game. You had the young gun and Brandon Sproat give you 6 scoreless innings. From there, Brooks Raley a scoreless inning, but then you had Tyler Rogers give up 2 runs, one of which was earned hurt by a Francisco Alvarez catcher's interference call, and then Edwin Diaz in the 8th/9th inning gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings, and the Rangers trying to claw their way back into the American League playoff picture get the job done, and the Yankees get the job done. They go on the road, they take down the Boston Red Sox. This by a count of 5-3. They haven't gotten too many wins over Boston this year, and Max Fried, he gave up 9 hits and 5 1/3 innings, but limited the damage, gave up 2 runs, and did allow a home run along the way to Alex Bregman, 17th home run season, then Jaron Duran off of one Mr. Fernando Cruz, 15th home run season for Cruz, gives up that home run in his inning of work. Devin Williams, David Bennar, do not poop the Bennar, both give you a scoreless inning, and Luke Weaver, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels, and Jazz Chisholm, the difference in this one. 29th home run season, that comes off of Brian Bayo. Bayo did not have it in this one, 4 runs allowed in 5 innings. From there, Chris Murphy, Garrett Woodlock combined for 3 scoreless innings. Roldis Chapman, he gives up a run in inning to raise his ERA to a 1.28. He really has been the best reliever in all of baseball this far this season, but in this one, it was the Yankees that persevered. On Seattle, the Mariners were able to get the job done over the LA Angels, this by a count of 5-3, and for Seattle, they become one of your best over teams in all of baseball. 80 overs, 64 unders, and 5 pushes, and the Angels, 79 overs, 64 unders, and 6 pushes, so 2 of your top 4 teams in the big leagues there, as Taylor Ward was able to go deep off of Matt Brash, his 31st home run of the season. That actually cashed you the over, and Joe Adell sets fire to the rain against Brian Wu for his 36th home run of the season, but Wu said woohoo to a relatively solid start. 13 punch-outs, 6 innings, allowed 2 runs, including that home run. Luke Jackson, Caleb Ferguson both led to scoreless inning. Matt Brash gives up a solo home run, and Mitch Ferris gives one up to J.P. Crawford. Crawford is 10th home run season, and for Ferris, roughed up in this one. Rookie goes 4 innings, gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned. From there, the bullpen was actually solid. Chase Seth, a scoreless inning. Sammy Peralta, 3 scoreless innings, but by then the damage had been done. Lots of damage done by the Slam Diego Padres as they take it to the Rockies after they had lost the game on Friday. 11-3 the final. Bradley Blaylock, not what he was looking for. He gives up 3 home runs in 3 innings, giving up 5 runs in total. Antonio Senzatella, not very relieving in long relief. 4 runs allowed in 3 innings. Ryan Rolson, a scoreless inning, and Anel Shavili gives up a solo home run in his inning of work for the Padres. Dylan Cease, good start here. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Kyle Hart was able to come in for a 1 2/3 innings. A lot of run along the way. Yuki Matsui, a scoreless inning, and Bradley Rodriguez, it's Brad and then Gley. He gives up a run in a third of an inning, and great deep for the Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr., 22nd home run of the campaign. Jackson Merrill, his 12th home run season, 2nd of the series. Manny Machado, he gets home run number 25 of the campaign, and then this was home run number 1 for Bryce Johnson in a Padres uniform. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, they do a nice job of holding down the Minnesota Twins. Game goes to 10 innings, and they get the job done by a count of 5-2 as Ryan Nelson, 6 scoreless innings. From there, Braden Garcia and Ryan Thompson combined for a scoreless inning. Taylor Rashi comes in the 9th inning. He gives up 2 runs in his inning of work that forced the game into extra innings. And then John Curtis with 2 assists. He comes in and he gives 2 scoreless innings. And for Alec Thomas, he gets his 9th home run season. That comes off of Joe Ryan. For Ryan, gives up 2 runs in 4 innings, so relatively short start here. Pearson Yule and Cody Lawyerson, that was his first career appearance, both give you 2 scoreless innings apiece. Cody Funderburk, a scoreless inning, but then Cole Sands, well, he pounded Sands in the 10th inning, giving up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, so less than savory there. Not so savory for the Atlanta Braves as they fall to the Houston Astros. This by a count of 6-2 as Hunter Brown was on it. 6 2/3 innings, allows 2 runs, does give up a home run along the way to Matt Olson, his 24th home run of the campaign. And for Bryce Elder, he gives up a home run himself, but 4 1/3 innings, gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned, including that home run to Christian Walker, 23rd home run season. From there, the Doddfather, Dylan Dodd, was actually solid in long relief. If you had the under, he helped you out. 3 2/3 innings scoreless, and Tyler Kinley, he comes in for a scoreless inning. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they persevere despite the fact that they were down by a count of 6-1 going into the bottom of the 6th inning. 9-8. They get the win in 10 innings as for Jacob Mizorowski, he's made 6 starts since coming off the injury list. 3+ runs allowed in all but one of them. Gives up 4 runs in 5 innings, including a pair of homers. Going deep for St. Louis, Brandon Donovan. 10th home run season of Ron Herrera, his 16th. From there, the bullpen did their part, though, as Rob Zanoski, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Grant Anderson does give up 2 runs, one of which was earned. There were a trio of errors there by the Brewers. Eric Fetty Wallop, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Tobias Myers, 1 2/3 innings, allows a run, and Abner Uribe gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning. But for the St. Louis Cardinals, they ended up going 3 of 16 with men in scoring position, while the Brewers 6 of 16 with men in scoring position. Difference in this one, and Sonny Gray, solid start, 8 strikeouts, 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. From there, Matt Svanson, 2 scoreless innings. Jojo Romero, though, gives up 2 runs in his inning work. Riley O'Brien does not get a single out, gives up 3 runs, all of which were earned in the 9th inning. Kyle Leahy finished off that 9th inning, and then in the 10th inning, gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned as Andrew Menesterio walks it off. The LA Dodgers, they take it to the San Francisco Giants by a count of 13-7. Giants got up 4-1 in this game, then the Dodgers offense absolutely went to work as Shohei Ohtani gets his 49th home run of the season. Logan Webb, typically good at home, not so much on this night, gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned in 4 innings. Jose Buto gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. 4 outside the bullpen from Matt Gage, he gives up 3 runs. Tristan Beck, 2 scoreless innings, and then Keaton Wynn, a scoreless inning. And for the Giants, they do go 5 of 14 with men in scoring position as they rough up Clayton Kershaw, who gives up 4 runs in 3 innings. From there, Kirby Yates, who's had a rough season, 3 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. But Justin Robelski, 7 outside the bullpen scoreless. Michael Kopech, Tanner Scott, and Edgar Enriquez all in a scoreless inning. And do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Currently doing this as Reds and A's are in progress. This game will probably be going on for quite a while. This is currently tied up 5-5 in the 7th inning for Luis Severino. Not necessarily the start that he was hoping for. Gives up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a pair of home runs. Going deep for Cincinnati, Tyler Stevenson is 11th home run of the season, and then Will Benson is 11th home run of the season. Hunter Green, though, he only got 7 outs in this game. He gave up 5 runs, all of which weren't including a pair of bombs. Brent Rooker, 28th home run of the season, then home run number 4 of the season for Carlos Cortez. 3 of them coming in this series, so that's rather harebrained and crazy for the A's. You've had Michael Kelly and Bradley Basso already give you squirrel settings, and for the Reds, Connor Phillips came in for 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Nick Martinez, 2 2/3 innings scoreless, and now Graham Ashcraft in to try to hold things down for the Cincinnati Reds. So we shall see how that goes. And if you're looking at Major League Baseball overall for the season, the under has the lead on overs, but things have been overwhelming over the last 30 days. 200 overs to 188 unders. So last 30 days, a hit rate of 51% to the over, and favorites, they've had a rough time. 220 and 180 on the money line. That is just a 55% hit rate there. And over the last 7 days, favorites are starting to get back into form as they had just an absolutely brutal run to begin September, but now 51 and 37 on the money line in their last 7 days. By the way, A's now up 6-5 as I'm doing this podcast in the 7th inning, and the over, that is currently hitting at 55.6%. Now, if you count this A's game that just went over, 41 overs to 50 unders, so a 55.5% hit rate to the under over the last 7 days, and overall for the season, the under hitting at about 51.2%, 1,039 overs to 1,089 unders, with money line favorites sitting at about 56%, 1,242 and 955. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do try to decipher what we're getting out there in Baltimore, where the Orioles are looking to go for the rest of the season? Can they play some spoiler? And how do we just try to make sense of what is a very, very murky playoff picture? We will talk about that and so much more with Chris Cichon of WBAL in Baltimore next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VC Family Podcast.
From producer Jordan Peele, the movie Him asks the question, would you sell your soul for greatness?
What are you willing to sacrifice?
Activate my hip.
This Friday.
You want what I have, you got to take it from me.
What if I say no? I ain't a killer, but don't push me.
Experience fear like never before.
It's time for me to show you exactly who I am.
Him, directed by Justin Tipping, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. Only in theaters Friday. Get tickets now.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Chris Cichon aboard. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. He's their 5-tool player over there, covering a little bit of everything with the Baltimore Orioles, the Ravens, all the news happenings out there in Charm City, and so much more. He does an absolutely excellent job as well with regards to the hockey scene, which that's going to be getting started up sooner rather than later as well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at The Big Chi Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And Chris, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Greg, thank you so much for having me. Yes, it is a pleasure to join you, and it is certainly a time of year where we've got a lot of excitement about the Ravens and a lot of excitement this weekend with Joe Flacco returning to town. He will never have to buy a beer in Baltimore ever again, delivering that Super Bowl. And Baltimore fans are hoping that in 2026, the baseball season, they're going to be playing alongside the Ravens in postseason play this year, though. Not the case, but just hoping to finish the season at 500 or above, I would say at this point would be a success given how the season started.
Yep, absolutely. And how are things looking right now with regards to the young guys for the Orioles? Because as we know, they've actually gotten back more of their guys like Kyle Bradish, Tyler Wells. They're going to be looking to build their 2026 rotation and beyond with them. We'll see what the plan is for Albert Suarez, who's been in long relief. But we've noticed that the lineup with guys like Jeremiah Jackson and company seeing a lot of run. And it feels like, for lack of a better term, these last 2 or so weeks for the Orioles might be auditions for 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to play a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are absolutely brutal this year and certainly not performing up to, I wouldn't say, high expectations or anything like that, but they were probably hoping with Paul Skeens at the top of that rotation that they were going to be doing a little bit better. But no, this Orioles team was able to get a sweep there. Win in close fashion, 1-run games in each of them, but that's what was a big proponent as to why they were successful in 2023 and 2024. You'd like to see a little bit more offense out of this group. You know, when we're talking about an Orioles team that hasn't exactly fielded, you know, the deep lineup that we saw earlier in the season, you kind of have to hope that your starting pitchers, now that you've got Kyle Bradish back, now that you've got Tyler Wells, now that Cade Povich in his last start, granted, I know it was against Pittsburgh, but he almost went 7 and gave up only 2 earned runs, so that was a strong start there. And yeah, if you're able to see positive signs here moving forward, especially this weekend series against Toronto and moving forward, the big game Sunday here, we are going to see Keegan Aiken kind of auditioning perhaps for a role on this team next year, whether it's a long relief role or, you know, he's not a closer, I don't think, but I know he's probably served best in that role. Yennier Cano is certainly not the closer of this team. He's proven that he really doesn't have the stuff when it comes to that. And yeah, you mentioned Albert Suarez coming back into the rotation. We'll see what he kind of contributes at the latter end of the season here. You know, I wouldn't say that he's a big part of what the Orioles want to do next year, but certainly a guy that when he has been healthy has done well for them. But, you know, when we're looking at this Orioles team, Samuel Basallo, he had the big walk-off recently. He's somebody that everybody is very excited for, and he's somebody that, you know, is making the Orioles certainly wonder about the future of a one Adley Rutschman. Are they going to, I think we talked about this maybe the last time, is there room in the Charm City for the both of them? Do you move maybe Rutschman to a first base DH role and have Basallo, or vice versa? So that's something they're going to have to explore too. A guy that they have gotten some nice looks out of is Kobe Mayo. He's a diesel dude, but has, you know, struggled to get hit for a lot of average, but he does have nice exit velocity. So, you know, when we're talking about Mayo and Mountcastle there at the first base, those are two guys that I think the Orioles, want to still build around here as well, too. And then, you know, you talk about a Jackson Holiday. This has been a very long season. I'm sure that he's probably laboring at this point of the year, but he's somebody that, too, cornerstone of this team. And then still Jordan Westberg, I know he's hurt now, and Gunnar Henderson hasn't had, you know, his strongest of seasons that we're maybe expecting, but he's still so young in his career. The pieces are there, and then I didn't even get to the outfield yet with Dylan Beavers and Colton Cowser. You know, these are guys, I wouldn't say Jeremiah Jackson. He's kind of filling in there right now. We're getting a look at him. But yeah, Beavers and Cowser, two guys, young guys. I think that they both, when 2026 comes around, will be 25, 26, kind of that sweet spot. Yeah, this is a team I think the Orioles are primed for next year. It's just, and at least they're finishing the season pretty strong, so you can have that momentum going into next year. You don't want to have sort of a collapse or see guys not trying. That really hasn't been the case. They went through maybe a little bit stretches where Gunnar Henderson was playing out in the field a little bit careless, but overall, these guys are playing hard for Mancelino, and I would expect them to finish out the season strong.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Orioles are able to play a little bit of spoiler here, as well as Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And right now we're doing this as they have a nice weekend series against the Toronto Blue Jays. And then they're going to have the Yankees coming up for two of their final 3 series of the season. And do you think that there is a chance that the Orioles can play a little bit of spoiler? Because for the Yankees, it's all locked up that they're going to be in the playoffs. They certainly want to be able to get the AL East. They right now have a big series this weekend against the Red Sox, and I don't see them falling out of the playoffs altogether, but I mean, it's been topsy-turvy for them. The Blue Jays are looking to be able to shore up that American League East as well, so they're going to need to try to be able to get a few wins as well. We know that there's going to be some interesting starters going this weekend, as well as it looks like we're most likely going to be getting Max Scherzer going at it on Saturday, and on Sunday we'll be seeing some Shane Bieber action for the Blue Jays. But I think that these are some very interesting series that the Orioles have coming up, because the Orioles are going to be playing into the playoff picture based on the way that they fight against the Yankees and the Blue Jays.
Yeah, without a doubt, and they certainly will be rolling out some of their arms, as we talked about, with Wells and Bradish, both who have looked strong since returning from the injured list here and pitching down the stretch. But, you know, ultimately, Aaron Judge is, at least coming into Friday, the OBP leader by a lot, nearly 450. We saw him go home run twice on September 11th and for the president. So we see him leading in batting average as well, too. So, yeah, he has been delivering for this team. Slugging leads the league as well, too. And, when it comes to the Yankees, they do have two top line starters in Carlos Rodon and Max Fried, both entering Friday with 16 wins each. So certainly would feel good about those two. Rodon has his moments, though, I think, where he can be inconsistent. And I think a lot of Yankees fans would certainly tell you that. But, yeah, I like their prospects there. Their bullpen, I think, could get a little bit short up. But the Yankees typically, when it comes to the postseason, have the pieces that are able to deliver. But, it's not Mariano Rivera anymore. It is Devin Williams, and that's definitely different there. But if there's one team, and they're professionals, I'm not thinking that the Orioles would try any harder comparatively to, any other team that they'd be facing. But, yeah, if they know the Yankees are in a playoff picture, I certainly think that. And Tony Mansolino, I don't think he's going to be returning as the team's manager next year. But what if he does go and, finish above 500? Again, they enter Friday 8 games under, so that's going to be quite a feat. But what if they are able to knock the Yankees totally out of the AL East race? The Yankees certainly are a team that is able to deliver. And when we're talking about not just Judge, they certainly have some good hitters too, whether it's, Volpe, I know, has had himself a tough season, but we just learned that he's got a torn labrum that he's been playing with. So that's certainly not ideal, but Rice is a good hitter for this team. And if Giancarlo Stanton can deliver the power, I think that they're going to be a team that can certainly be reckoned with. But when it comes to striking out, I know that they probably do that a little bit too much. So they probably want to clear that up going into the postseason. But other than that, the Yankees getting it done pretty much bullpen-wise and starting pitching-wise. I feel a lot better about them watching their performance against the Tigers, especially on September 11th, than I did a couple of weeks ago when they were certainly having some hitting issues. But Boston's a tough test, without a doubt. We'll see how it plays out Sunday here with the Red Sox having some sluggers. Although guys like Alex Bregman, I don't think he's been, blowing the cover off the baseball. They're still a formidable opponent.
Yep, they certainly are, and it's going to be a lot of fun to just take a look at these next few series in general for the Baltimore Orioles, because they're going to be playing into an American League playoff picture that we've talked about in the past. I think that's worth bringing up once again. I think the phrase "as clear as mud" is a good way of being able to phrase it, because, man, I just take a look at things right now, and I want to get your thoughts, because it's just been so herky-jerky. It's just been so strange in terms of everything that we've been seeing in terms of this playoff picture, and I just don't feel like there's really that dominant team out there in the American League. I think that the Yankees have a chance to be able to really reach peak form, but will they ever be able to do so? Who knows, because that bullpen has been so awful recently, and when it comes to the month of October, the home runs that you get in June and July just aren't quite there. The Blue Jays are a team that's really been failing with regards to their bullpen. The Tigers have been all over the place. I don't know if there's a team that you're really liking above the rest of the American League, but it just feels like whoever gets hot at the right time might be the team that makes the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always come back to the Arizona Diamondbacks from 2 years ago. I had no sort of faith that they would make any sort of noise in the postseason, especially when they played Philadelphia. And Brandon Pfaadt was throwing some nasty stuff that the Phillies weren't able to hit, and they were able to advance the World Series. So, yeah, they certainly are a tough team. Philadelphia, that is. Arizona's not going to be in the picture, but Philadelphia will be in the mix when we're talking about some of the teams that are going to be representing the National League when we go far. But, yeah, I do like Boston, considering Aroldis Chapman. What did he just recently give up, like one of his first hits in quite some time recently? So they have, at least entering the weekend, as a bullpen ERA, had the lowest in the American League. So you got to respect that. And again, they are a team that, maybe not all that top loaded when it comes to their starting pitching, but, I trust a guy like Lucas Giolito to go out there and deliver. And they're certainly a team too that I would feel comfortable about, betting in terms of the futures market as well too, because Garrett Crochet, he's another guy. That acquisition looks like it's totally been the right call there. Again, mentioning Chapman at the back end of that bullpen, but even veteran guys like a Steven Matz and Justin Slayton, who's pitched, for them for a couple of years now. You certainly like what they're able to deliver. And when we're talking about the outfield, I do like Duran, Yoshida, and Rafaela. Those are some guys that can deliver with power as well as some speed too. So I think the Red Sox can make some noise. If we're talking about the National League, and, since you mentioned bullpens and kind of been inconsistencies there, a team that I like is the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, they are a sub-4 ERA as far as a bullpen unit coming into this weekend. and they're a pitching staff that has been delivering for this team. Not exactly the biggest name players, but they've been able to string together wins on the backs of some of their hitters. And, I certainly, the past few years, have really liked what I've seen out of Freddie Peralta. He's been a consistent starter for them. Jose Quintana, that's a guy who's a veteran. I'll trust him in the postseason. And Mizorowski and Woodruff. I know Woodruff wasn't great in his second to last start, maybe. Still a guy I would trust in there. And then, when it comes to their hitters, William Contreras, he's going to be able to deliver as far as the power is concerned. Sal Frelick, I think I mention him every time I come on your show. I know he's a smaller guy, 5'8", 188, but he's got some speed. And then Christian Yelich, the veteran presence there. So, yeah, I think that the Milwaukee Brewers can certainly be formidable. It's going to be interesting if they take on the Chicago Cubs, because the Cubs are really good too. They have their offensive deficiencies at times, but then there's other times where they can run the bases really well with guys like Nico Horner. And, I know Kyle Tucker being, hurt in this situation is certainly throwing a little bit of a wrench in their plans. But they are a team that I think can go far, because I think they've got a pretty nice bullpen too. I think entering into Friday, they had just a couple of picks as far as their bullpen was a little bit higher in terms of an ERA than the Milwaukee Brewers were. So, yeah, that's certainly a situation where, Kyle Tucker is on the injured list. Even the Cubs with Pete Crow Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki and Ian Happ, I think they'll be able to overcome that perhaps. Injury, no doubt about that, to Kyle Tucker. But, I think they'll be able to get through. And they're a team, as far as their rotation, Matthew Boyd being able to resurrect him, and he's been solid for them. Shota Imanaga, solid as well, too. Cade Horton's a guy I like. And then Colin Ray, probably a little bit more about him as a former Milwaukee Brewer, but I know when I covered him when I was in D.C. on By the Book on Monumental Sports, every time Colin Ray came out and pitched, I feel like he delivered decent starts. So I like the Cubs and the Brewers and the Phillies in the National League, not going on any sort of limbs there. In the American League, right now I'm circling the Yankees and the Red Sox as the teams that I would, lay wagers on. But, the Rangers have gotten hot. The Mariners, we know how good they can be. So, yes, wide open. And I did not even talk about the defending champion Los Angeles Dodgers. I think it goes without saying we know how solid they are, but they've had a lot of injuries to their rotation this year. So will that bite them when it comes to the postseason? That remains to be seen. I don't feel as good about them as I do. And then the Mets, too. They've been a colossal – I don't know if I wanted to use the word failure because they make the playoffs. They don't. But a former co-host of yours, or Jeff Parles on VSiN, talked about how they were a gutless team, the Mets, and I tend to agree with that. I wouldn't be all that high on them when it comes to the postseason futures.
And I know that you were talking about the Dodgers rotation, but how big is it as well that Max Muncy is back? Because I did the research on it, and it feels like the Dodgers average about a full run after per game more this season with Max Muncy being out there rather than when he's out. And I think that's just really key that they have him for this postseason run as well, because I do still think that the Dodgers are the best team in the league, but it's just all about can they be healthy or not in the postseason.
I loved that research you did with Max Muncy, because that's not really a guy you think of. And it's like, I mentioned Judge and his 322 average. What is Muncy hovered around like 230? But yeah, he is a hitter in the middle of that lineup that can spray the ball, doesn't do a whole lot. And, ultimately this is a rotation and a lineup too that, with Ohtani and Freeman. And I think Teoscar Hernandez is finally starting to get on board. He had a big night against Colorado recently. I mean, he's been a pretty big disappointment this year. But, yeah, if you go into the rotation and you've got Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Ohtani opening, Emmett Sheehan, Clayton Kershaw, you're still going to feel good about this team going in. I mean, Clayton Kershaw's not the same pitcher, obviously, but again, a guy that I would take a couple of innings from in the postseason if it's in the middle of the game or the front end opening type situation. And the bullpen we know has been solid. A lot of veteran presences there, guys like Blake Trinan, Tanner Scott. They're able to certainly get it done and shut games down. And I didn't even mention Will Smith, too. Catcher position is argued as one of the most important in all of baseball. And to me, he is up there with William Contreras and, JT Realmuto is one of the best catchers in the game. Mookie Betts, you could say maybe he's been a little bit disappointing this year, but still a guy who can play the infield, shortstop for you, run, and still think can deliver in a big moment. And, I even like ancillary pieces too, like Miguel Rojas. And then they're managed by Dave Roberts, who keeps us cool. So yeah, maybe I'm a little bit more back on them. I think maybe you've convinced me a little bit more now that I'm going through some of these names. I think they'll be able to maybe weather any sort of the issues they have with injuries middle of the season here and get right for the postseason. And they know how to win there.
Yep, and this podcast always gets right when you're aboard, Chris, because you did such a great job out there in Baltimore, in the DMV area. I know that you're following a little bit of everything with the Orioles, with now it being football season, so that means that you've got the Maryland Terps, you've got the Baltimore Ravens, and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
I am at the Big Cheese Show on X, Big Cheese Show on Instagram. Always appreciate the love, Greg. And yes, we are the official radio station of Navy football, who will be taking on 3 different Owls this year, Greg, I learned today. FAU, Rice, and Temple. So not a barn burner schedule for this team. So Navy could maybe be making some noise when it comes to the postseason. So we'll be following that. As well as, yes, as you mentioned it, the Ravens. This town is certainly ready for the Ravens to advance to the next level, and it's fun working for the station that broadcasts them as well, too. So, Greg, thank you as always for having me, brother.
Well, when you mentioned 3 different kinds of owls, all I have is 3 questions. Who, and who with regards to the Owls. But that said, it's going to be an absolutely tremendous season out there. It's always amazing to have Chris aboard as he does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. So big thanks, Chris, for joining me in the last segment right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Producer Jordan Peele, the movie Him asks the question, would you sell your soul for greatness?
What are you willing to sacrifice?
Activate my hip.
This Friday.
You want what I have, you got to take it from me.
What if I say no? I ain't a killer, but don't push me.
Experience fear like never before.
It's time for me to show you exactly who I am.
Him, directed by Justin Tipping, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. Only in theaters Friday. Get tickets now.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Chris Cichon. He does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights. Did so once again today. Even though the Orioles are out of the postseason race, they're going to have a big say as who may/may not be making the playoffs. He does such a great job looking at this great game of baseball. And for those of you that are just fans of teams out there in the DMV area, does amazing work. So big thanks, Chris, for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to be going in last exhortation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we start things off with 9:51, 9:52 on the card? It is the Pirates, and they walk the plank to Washington to face off against the Nationals as Cade Cavalli is on the bump for the Nats, and Mike Burrows goes for Pittsburgh. Relative game here with the Pirates. They're between -110 to a -112, between -106 to -110 is that number on Washington. 8.5 is the total. Unders anywhere between -105 to a -120. The over is anywhere between -115 to even money, and I'm going to be in on this total under. I set my total at 8.3, and I'm in on the Washington Nationals on the money line with the way that Cade Cavalli has pitched at home. He's made 3 home starts, so I recognize that it's not necessarily the world's biggest sample size, but he has allowed just 2 runs in that time span. A 1.10 ERA, again, probably going to be going northward, but now you get to face off against Pirates lineup that is dead last in the the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, and in terms of total runs per game. Now, Cavalli overall 467 ERA, so he's very much struggled when he's been away from home, but it feels like a very good spot for him. You've got a Pirates team that only has 3 guys on the roster who have been able to deliver 10-plus home runs: Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, and Andrew McCutchen. And with Cruz, along with so many others like Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, Cam Devaney, Nick Yorkie, they're all hitting below a 230. They're just not giving you much whatsoever. You've had Nick Gonzalez hit like a 275, but that's about it on this team. And for the Nationals, they have been a little bit colder at home rather than away from home in terms of their offenses. For the Nationals, about 4 runs per game at home, over 4.5 runs per game away from home, as a lot of the young guys just need to step up for this team. You've got the likes of Brady House, along with Dylan Cruz, Andres Chaparro, guys like this, Robert Hassel, give you less than a 300 on base. Now, I will say, Dallin Lyle hitting a 282 has been rock solid. CJ Abrams is up to 17 home runs, hitting a 265, but of his 17 home runs, 14 of them have come away from him. James Wood, 27 home runs, 355 on base, but the home runs have really dried up ever since the All-Star break, and have a pair of teams that have really struggled with their bullpens. For the Washington Nationals, they are dead sinking last in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Just so many guys are posting up an ERA that is well above a 440, like Clayton Beeter, Shinkuzuki, Igasaura, Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Rebalta. You just go down the list. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you've got a pair of guys in Dennis Santana along with Isaac Manson, who have been able to give you a sub-325 ERA, but they've really struggled with the likes of Colin Holderman, not living up to his name, well above a 5 ERA. Evan Siska has been all over the place. Dorian Moretta more around a 375 ERA, but the guys that were really excelling in the bullpen, like a Braxton Ashcraft, he's now a starter. So I do think that for the Pirates, they're going to have a little bit of a tough time here. Now, Mike Burrows has looked very good recently. They've been having him sort of as a piggyback / a starter. It's been a little bit of a split situation. Hasn't given a lot of length recently. 4 innings or fewer in each out of his last 4 outings, so I don't expect him to go too long, but has given up just a combined 3 runs in his last 5 outings, so that's something that you do like to see. He's giving up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but a little bit over 9 punch-outs per 9, 3.99 ERA. Do think that in the end, Nationals get a little bit more out of Cavalli in a lower scoring game, so I might tell it at 8.3, like the under, and the Nationals on the money line. 953, 954 on the card. The Cardinals are on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers. Jose Quintana is on the bump for the Crew. Miles Michaelis goes for the Cardinals. Cardinals who find themselves as underdogs between plus 146 to a plus 150, minus 174 to a minus 182. That number on the Brewers if you're looking to lay a run half. Right now that opener is plus 128 and the total is 9. Under is minus 115, over is minus 105. And for Quintana and the Brewers, set them at a minus 204 on the money line, and I was willing to go up to a minus 108 on the run line. Miles Michaelis is just pitching to way too much contact, and he has been absolutely brutal on the road thus far this season. For Miles Michaelis, overall for the season, ERA in that neighborhood of a 484 with 5.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, allowing 1.5 home runs per 9, but the road numbers, 654 ERA away from home with 2.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Just absolutely brutal from this man. Meanwhile, for Jose Quintana, he should see a little bit more regression as well. 3+ runs allowed in each of his last 3 starts, 388 ERA, but just 6.1 strikeouts at 3.4 walks per 9 innings, giving up about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings as well. Good news for him is that he gets to go up against the Cardinals lineup that since the All-Star break is dead last in the National League in terms of run scoring. Man, it has not been good for these guys, although Wilson Contreras still has been relatively steady and rock solid for the team. 20+ home runs, about a 340 on base, and since coming off the injured list, Lars Nootbaar has been able to give you a relatively solid effort, so that's something that you do like to see for this team. Alec Burleson has been able to give you 14+ home runs, about a 285 average, but I mean, just a lot of guys have been struggling in general, as it's really been the young guys not coming through. I recognize that Nolan Gorman does have 14+ home runs, but I mean, you just need to be getting a little bit more out of these guys, as he, along with Victor Scott, Nathan Church, Jordan Walker, Pedro Paez, all these guys have been hitting a 228 or lower, so you're just not getting a lot of average air. Brendan Donovan has been dealing with injury. Now, for the Cardinals, the bullpen has been relatively solid. It's a top 10 unit in the big leagues. Trading away Ryan Helsley actually turned out to be a good thing for this team, as you've got likes of Matt Savanson, Riley O'Brien, Jojo Romero, Kyle Leahy, all posting up a sub-3 ERA, and for the Brewers, they've been dealing with a few injuries with regards to their bullpen without having Trevor McGill out there along with McMears. They've been struggling just a little bit, but that said, things have still been relatively rock solid with this team. As for the Milwaukee Brewers, you have a few guys that have been able to come in and hold down the fort. Abner Uribe has been rock solid along with Grant Anderson, give you a sub-3 ERA. Aaron Ashby is able to give you some long relief as well. DL Hall being on the injury list has hurt them, but for the Brewers, 5.6 runs per game ever since the All-Star break. That is numero uno out there in the National League, and they're not really doing it with a ton of power. You've only got one player with above 20 home runs this season, and Christian Yelich, 28 bombs, but I mean, it's just all these guys providing a good on-base percentage as Yelich, Sal Frelick, William Contreras, Bryce Terang, Isaac Collins all give you at least a 345 on-base in a Brewers uniform and a Brewers uniform only, and Nirvana 367 on-base. Do think that in the end, the Brewers are able to get to Michaelis, put up some runs, and I do think that Kitana gets lit up a little bit as well. Maybe by total 9.2, so like the over and the Brewers on the run line. 955, 956 on the card. The Dodgers are on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Robbie Ray says hit Pepper Ray to another start, and Tyler Glasnow is on the bump for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a favorite here of anywhere between minus 134 to a minus 137, plus 112 to a plus 116 is that number on San Francisco. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 120. Under is even. I set the Dodgers money line at a minus 125. If you're looking to lay a run half right now, that is at a plus 130. So this is going to be a little bit more of a wait and see approach. I think when it's all said and done, I probably do get the plus 125 that I'm looking for on the San Francisco Giants. That'll probably be where I land, but that said, do need to wait a little bit more because right now we've got the more, shall we say, East Coast openers where they use more of a 20-cent opener instead of the dime line that you typically find at Circa, Superbook, what have you. So that's a little bit wait and see, but I do think that when it's all said and done, I should be able to get a plus 125 on the Giants as Robbie Ray has been rock solid thus far this season. The strikeout numbers are down from where he has been in past years, but that said, 332 ERA, more like a 376 fielding dependent because he's still giving up the 3.5 walks per 9 innings, which is actually better than what he's done throughout his career, but he has been just very, very sturdy. When he's been at home, he is a little bit more of a fly ball pitcher, and throughout his career has been hurt by the home run ball, but when he's been in San Francisco this year, he's only been giving up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. The ERA is actually a 335 at home compared to a 328 away from him, but he's limiting the hard contact, which is something that you do like to see. And for Tyler Glasnow, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of limiting damage, but he has really been having a tough time with regards to his command, and that is something that is a bit worrisome. He's got a 321 ERA, but a fielding dependent that's more around about a 386, but the 4 walks per 9 innings being something that really stands out to me. And he has posted up 2+ walks in 4 out of his last 6 starts, so that is something that I'm looking at. He has been able to give a little bit more length recently, and the strikeout stuff has still been very much there for him, but he's also backed up by a bullpen that's been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. Good news is you get back Michael Kopech, Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott. Bad news is Scott and Yates are both posting up above a 4 ERA as Jack Dreher has actually been one of your best relief pieces this season. Alex Vesia as well, but Vesia right now deals with a little bit of an injury. It's been very inconsistent with this bullpen. Anthony Banda has been a little bit up and down. And for the Dodgers, this is a lineup that I think is going to now start to launch with Max Muncy back to the fold. 387 on base with 17 home runs, but when you look at the numbers with / without Max Muncy, the Dodgers average about a full run half per game more per game when Max Muncy's out there on the field versus when he's not. So he's made a quantum impact on this lineup. Like Teoscar Hernandez, 24 home runs, but just a 278 on base. Andy Paz has been rock solid, 24 bombs of his own, hitting at 270. Will Smith continues to get jiggy with it, a 400 on base, but he's been dealing with a little bit of injury. You do want to be noting that you've got Freddie Freeman still moving the line with about a 360 on base, and obviously Shohei Ohtani doing Shohei Ohtani things, 393 on base, 48 home runs. And for the Giants, this is an offense that is much better when they're away from home rather than at home. About 4.65 runs per game away from home compared to about 4.05 runs per game at home. That's just because San Francisco is so gosh darn pitcher friendly, but for Willy Adames, could just use a little bit more average out of him. The home run power has been there, 28 home runs, but hitting just a 229, but this is a lineup that is starting to straighten out. Matt Chapman, 350 on base with 21 home runs. You've got Eloy Ramos, Jung-Ho Lee, both hitting in the neighborhood of a 265 with Ramos being able to supply 17 home runs. Rafael Devers finally giving you that 357 on base, 16 home runs in 75 games. He's starting to deliver. Bottom of the lineup has been an issue. Luis Matos, a catcher spot, that's been an issue. So bad for Tyler Fitzgerald. They had to send him down to the minor leagues, but for the San Francisco Giants, what has been rock solid is the bullpen. They trade away Camilo Udabal, they trade away Tyler Rogers, Randy Rodriguez is on the injury list, and yet they're still a top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. That's because Joey Lucchesi, Jose Buto, Matt Gage have all been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. You've been able to get relatively good production production out of Yoel Piguero as well. 9 appearances, has yet to give up a run. He's able to give you multiple innings, so feel pretty bullish about him. And overall, I look at this spot, and if we can get a plus 125 on the Giants, which I'm anticipating, going to be looking at them on the money line. I think that this is a lower scoring game with the way that the Giants bullpen is delivering. I set my total at 7.4, so I'm also going to be in on this total under. 957, 958 on the card. The Padres play host the Colorado Rockies. Adaman Marquez is on the bump for Colorado, and Yu Darvish is on the bump for the Padres. 8.5 is the total. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. Minus 320 to minus 350 is that number on the Padres. Plus 260 to a plus 280 is that number on Colorado. If you're looking to lay run half right now with the Padres, that is a whopper of a minus 145 to a minus 150. I'm willing to go up to a minus 145 with this Padres run line. I would need a plus 293 or greater to get there with the Rockies, which, when it's all said and done, Circa might give us like a plus $3 on the Rockies, and I would actually be willing to take that. And I don't think I've taken a Rockies money line in about 5 months. For the Padres, they've already lost 1 game in this series, and Yu Darvish just has not been good this year. With Yu Darvish, you can tell that he's just not himself. He's aging a little bit. I think he's up to 39 years old, and he's got a fielding independent that's a 487 with an ERA of a 565. Maybe he's gotten a little bit unlucky, but 1.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. The 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's right near a career low for him, and it just hasn't gotten better for him recently. 3+ runs allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts now. Good news is he faces off against the Colorado Rockies team that's dead sinking last in terms of run creation away from home and road on base percentage. Hunter Goodman's been great. He's been able to supply 17 home runs away from home. He's hitting above a 250 when he's been on the road, but you just go down the cavalcade of different guys that just are not hitting away from home for the Colorado Rockies right now. As you've got yourself Jordan Beck, Orlando Arcia, Mickey Moniak, Warming Venable, Ezekiel Tovar, Brenton Doyle. So many of these guys hitting a 220 or lower away from home, and nobody other than Goodman more than 7 home runs when they've been away from home this far this season. And it is a brutal Rockies bullpen. You've got Victor Vodnik along with Jimmy Herget, who've been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Jaden Nell's been relatively okay as well, but then you just go down the list of guys like your Anel Chavilis. They've transferred Antonio Senzatella to the bullpen, Nick Anderson, Anthony Molina, all these guys posting up north of 5 ERA. That's not been great, and for the Padres, this has been the number 1 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen area. You've had some struggles from Jeremiah Estrada along with Robert Suarez, but you still have the likes of Jason Adam, Mason Miller, Adrian Morejon, David Morgan, who have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Wandy Peralta, more around about a 3.27 ERA. But for the Padres, they have been a bottom 7 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. You've got Manny Machado's up to 24 bombs. He's been hitting a 275. Fernando Tatis Jr., Lamont Laureano, 20 to 21 home runs apiece. Tatis about a 360 on base. Laureano in that neighborhood as well with a 300 average. Xander Bogaerts has been dealing with injury, though. That's been hurting the team a little bit since the beginning of the month of June. He had been pretty solid in terms of move line, getting on base. So Jake Cronenworth, he's done a nice job, give you about a 370 on base, and Jackson Merrill does have a home run in this series. And for Germán Marquez, the big issue has been just giving up general contact. He hasn't even necessarily given up the deep ball. He's posting up, though, a 6.31 ERA, giving up now 11.9 hits per 9 innings, 1.4 home runs allowed per 9. That's not great. 6.2 strikeouts, 3.4 walks per 9 innings, but the 5.10 fielding independent indicates that he might be doing for a little bit of positivity here, but he has given up 3+ runs in each out of his last 4 starts and 4+ in each out of his last 3. So, interesting scenario here. I did set my total at a 7.9. I actually do think that this is going to be a lower scoring game. I think that Marquez straightens out, and I do think that Darvish against the worst team in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home gives you a little bit better start. So in on the under, and if we get a minus 145 or less, we'll be in on that Padres run line. 959, 960 on the card. The Yankees are on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Crochet is on the bump for the Sox, and Will Warren goes for the Yankees. 8 is the total. Over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115 and minus 150 to a minus 157 is that number on Boston. Plus 120 to plus 130 is the number on the Yankees. Right now, if you're looking to lay run half with Boston, you're going to be finding that at a plus 138. I set my run line price at a plus 137 at my money line at a minus 149. When it's all said and done, would like to probably get more of a minus 145 money line on the Red Sox, but if worse comes to worse, I will just take that run line like I'm seeing right now. So if I absolutely had to play it right now, we'll be looking at that Red Sox run line, but in some form or capacity, going to be able to get there. I just don't trust in Will Warren, and the advanced numbers show that Will Warren should be doing for a little bit of positivity. He's always been good in terms of being able to get swings and misses. 4.22 ERA with 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, closer to 391 field independent, but He has given up the 3.7 walks per 9 innings. Now, has been better recently. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. That does not include the 4 unearned runs given up against the White Sox. He was just hurt by the fielding in that start. But, he has been a bit all over the place. And then for Garrett Crochet, he's been one of the most dominant pitchers in the American League. And, he might be able to find himself back in the Cy Young hunt based on how he does in this start, because you saw Tariq Skubal go down with an injury over the weekend. And for Crochet, 11 strikeouts and 2 walks per 9 innings, 2.57 ERA, 281 fielding dependent. He did give up that 7th spot against the Cleveland Guardians, but 2 runs or fewer given up in 5 out of his last 6 starts. So he has been rocking and rolling, and he's backed up by a Boston Red Sox bullpen that does rank in the top 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Aroldis Chapman has been the best closer in all of baseball. Sub 125 ERA with 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. But it's not just him. You've had the Justins in Justin Slayton along with Justin Wilson, Garrett Whitlock, Chris Murphy, Brandon Bernardino. These guys all give you a sub 320 ERA, so it's really been a nice collective for this Boston Red Sox bullpen. And for the Red Sox, it's a whole is greater than some of its parts lineup. They've had to pick up the pieces without Roman Anthony, and that injury does hurt the seam, but Rami Gonzalez is sitting above a 300. You've had Rob Refsnyder give you about a 360 on base along with Alex Bregman, who hasn't hit for a ton of power, but he continues to move the line. And then just have a lot of guys who have been able to hit in that neighborhood of like a 250 to a 267, Nate Eaton, Carlos Narvaez, Nick Sogard, Jaron Duran, Trevor Story, and Story's up to 24 home runs himself. Weiler Abreu has been dealing with injuries, so that's been a little bit of an issue for the team as he's got 22 home runs, but Red Sox continue to be a top 8 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation, and for the Yankees, they need to slug their way to victory, because since July 1st, this team has been second worst in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. We have seen Luke Weaver have just a lot of issues ever since coming off of the injured list. Yuri De Los Santos has been really not working out for this team since he came off the injured list. Tim Hill, right around about a 3.15 ERA. He's been relatively okay, and David Benhar has been a nice pickup. He's been able to give you a sub 275 ERA, but the likes of a Mark Leiter Jr. and Devin Williams giving you above a 5 ERA, that's been less than great. Paul Blackburn they've tried to use as a long guy. That has not been working out for the team either, but for the Yankees, this team does lead the big leagues in terms of run creation and home runs per game with Aaron Judge, 47 bombs, 444 on base. He's obviously been rock solid, and on any given day, you could have all 9 guys in the starting lineup of the Yankees have 19 plus home runs. Austin Wells, though, even though he's got 21 home runs at 270 on base. Anthony Volpe, 19 home runs, but at 268 on base. Have some all or nothing guys, so I've been liking what I've been seeing out of Jazz Chisholm with a 340 on base, 28 home runs. Cody Bellinger up to 28 bombs, hitting at 275, and then Troy Grisham post All-Star break, 15 plus home runs. He's been able to give you about a 345 on base. So interesting scenario here. I did set my total at 8.7. I do think that the Red Sox are going to be able to get to Warren. I do think that the Yankees do get a little bit to Crochet as well, so I like the over, and I do like the Boston Red Sox as of right now on the run line. Like I said, would rather lay a little bit of chalkier money line if we could get below this minus 150. 961, 962 on the card. The Orioles play on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays. Shane Bieber has a fever for getting outs for the Jays, and as of right now, it's to be determined for Baltimore, so this is a game that is presently off the board. When I was looking on CBS Sports, they were lining up Albert Suarez for the start, and if it is indeed Mr. Suarez going up against Shane Bieber, minus 222 or better, we'll be looking at the Jays, but I'd be looking there more at a run line of a minus 110 or better, plus 224 or better, looking at the Orioles, and then 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. Just a big giant mystery as to what the Orioles are going to be doing, because they're trying to give some guys auditions for next season, so that's something to be taking note of. With Tyler Wells, I don't think that we're going to be seeing him at all in this series. If he were to go, he'd probably be like a 10 to 15 cent upgrade. If it is a full-on bullpen game without Suarez, I'd probably downgrade this by 5 cents. And for Suarez, when he was a starter last year for the Orioles, he was relatively effective. And I do think that he's going to be playing into the equation in this game in some form or capacity. We just don't know how, especially with Dean Kramer dealing with a little bit of an injury. But what we do know is that this is a Orioles bullpen that overall for the season has been rough, as you've got so many guys like a Grant Wolfram, Corbin Martin, Yunier Cano have been posting up north of a 4 ERA. Keegan Aiken, I know probably be seeing some run in this game as well. He's a bit of a long guy. He's been posting up about a 3.15 ERA. He's been relatively promising, and when it does come to one Mr. Albert Suarez, like I said, last season he was able to do a very solid job as a starter for the team. When he's gotten opportunities this year, he's pitched 8 2/3 innings. He's only given up 2 runs, so rock solid there, but not too much of a strikeout guy. And for the Orioles, this team has been much different with their offense when they've been away from home rather than when they have been at home. It's an Orioles unit that overall for the season posting giving up just a little bit under 4 runs per game away from home. That is actually dead last in the American League. At home, closer to about 4.6 runs per game. And for Gunnar Henderson, along with Jackson Holliday, they've been really the two main constants in this lineup with all the injuries that they've had, because you've had Colton Cowser be in and out of the lineup all season long. It's been a rough season whenever you've had Adley Rutschman out there, and he's back on the injured list as well. So these guys have really had to hold down the fort for Henderson. He's been able to hit 270 with his 16 home runs, 17 bombs for Holliday, and you've had Jordan Westbrook at the injured list, so that means more young guys have come up. But Jeremiah Jackson has really flourished. He's hitting about a 295. Dylan Beavers over a 400 on base. You're not getting a ton of power out of these guys, and Samuel Basallo, he's had some nice at-bats, but he's still hitting below the Bedell's line of 200. And then on the other end for the Toronto Blue Jays, this team is averaging darn near 5.2 to 5.3 runs per game at home. That is number 1 in the American League. They've gotten a little bit cold here over the last few days, but you still have George Springer, who's really finding the fountain of youth this year. 28 home runs, 393 on base. Vlad Jr., expect a little bit more than 23 home runs, but still nearly a 4 on base. Bo Bichette is hitting for above a 300. He's up to 18 bombs. Addison Barger, 19 home runs. Dalton Varsho, home run every 11 at-bats, 18 bombs, so he's only hitting about a 240, but don't call his name. Alejandro Kirk has been rock solid. He's been able to hit about a 290. Even the backup catcher, Tyler Heineman, has been able to give you some good at-bats as well. What has really been ailing this Blue Jays team has been the bullpen, though, as you've got so many guys that overall for the season have a solid ERA. Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, or Anthony Dominguez all have a sub-340 ERA for the season. Tommy Nance as well, but really other than Nance, pretty much all these guys have an ERA above a 4 ever since the All-Star break, so it leads to an interesting scenario there. I do though think that Shane Bieber is going to go out there and give you just an absolutely electric start. He was done very right in terms of his minor league rehab starts when he was preparing to be able to make it back to the big league level. He made 7+ starts between his time with the Guardians and the Toronto Blue Jays, and since his return, 4.30 ERA, but this should be coming downward. He's been giving up only about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings while getting 9.8 strikeouts per 9. The walks have been down as well, just 3 walks allowed in 4 starts, so I do think that Bieber gives you a good start. So 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or higher the under with the Blue Jays. Minus 110 or better, looking at that run line, plus 224 or better the Orioles money line. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the White Sox. They are on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Slade Cichon is on the bump for Cleveland, and Yandris Gomez goes for the White Sox. White Sox who find themselves as underdogs between plus 136 to a plus 140. Minus 162 to minus 172, that number on Cleveland. 8.5 is the total, under is minus 120, the over is even. If you're looking to lay around half with Cleveland, that is a plus 134, and I was willing to take pretty much a plus 106 or better. Sign me up there. Yandris Gomez had a few moments of brightness early on with the White Sox, but that said, there's a reason why he's on team number 3 for the season, and for Yandris Gomez, between the 3 teams that he's pitched for this far this season, 5.05 ERA, 5.11 fielding dependent. The command has just been all over the place. 1.4 home runs, 5.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff has been good since joining the White Sox. 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings overall for the season, 8.7 punch-outs per 9. So, he's got some good stuff, but he just hasn't been able to be very effective recently. 11 runs allowed across 14 innings in his last 3 starts, giving up 8 walks in that time span. He's also been able to post up 16 strikeouts in that span as well. And then Slade Cichon on the flip side, he's just given up a little bit too much hard contact. 1.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings, a 4.45 ERA, but a 4.82 fielding dependent. He has given up 3+ runs in now 4 out of his last 7 starts. So that's been a little bit, shall we say, worrisome. And 4 strikeouts or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, all while giving up in his last 5 starts, by the way, now 6 home runs. So he's been really giving up some rockets. And for Slade Cichon, he's backed up by a team that does rank in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of run per creation. As Jose Ramirez has been very good, 28 home runs, 355 on base. Steven Kwan at the top is hitting at 275, and Kyle Manzardo, 323 on base, 26 home runs, perfectly acceptable. And then you just get down to these guys that are hitting below 220. Nolan Jones, David Schneeman, Bo Naylor, David Fry, John Kensey Noel, Austin Hedges. Man, you just have a bottom of the lineup that is so bad that it's not even funny. And it's the Guardians bullpen that still ranks in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Recognize that Kate Smith, Hunter Gaddis have been a little bit all over the place recently, but even with Nick Enright on the injured list, you've got Eric Zabrowski, Kobe Allard, Jacob Junis, who are all able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and Allard can be a very effective long guy for this team. And for the White Sox, there have been quite a few struggles in terms of bullpen, to say the least. Mike Vasil has been rock solid. He's been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. He's a little bit more of a long guy. And then Steven Wilson, he's been able to give you a sub-325 ERA himself. But we have noticed that the White Sox bullpen has very much been ballooning up recently with the likes of a Jordan Leisure, Brandon Iser, guys like this who have been supplying a ERA above a 4. Wilkerman Gonzalez has been relatively slow, but still, it's been a White Sox team that's been all over the place there. But for the lineup, they've been a top 7 unit in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. Lennon Sosa sitting about a 265 with 20 home runs. Colson Montgomery is below a 300 with regards to the on base, but 18 plus home runs out of him. You've had Andrew Benintendi give you between 18 to 19 home runs. He's now hitting above a 245. Luis Robert continues to have a season to forget, and he's been in and out of the lineup over the last few days, so that's not really hurting the team. But the catcher spot with Edgar Quiero along Kyle Teal, both of these guys have been able to above a 270. Mike Tauchman above a 350 on base, so it's a very interesting scenario here. I did set myself at an 8.6. I do think that we get runs up on the board in this game, so like the over and the Cleveland Guardians at a plus 107 or better on the run line. 965, 966 on the card. The Seattle Mariners play with the LA Angels. Kyle Hendricks, the professor, is on the bump for LA, and George Kirby goes for Seattle. Seattle is a big time favorite between minus 220 to minus 235, plus 178 to a plus 195. That number on Los Angeles with a total of 8. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105. If you're looking to lay run half with Seattle, right now you're finding that at a minus 110. That is pretty much the max that I'm willing to lay with the run line of Seattle, but I'm willing to lay up to a minus 110 on that run line. For George Kirby, it feels like he's been the victim of a little bit of just bad luck thus far this season. 4.56 ERA, but that fielding independent is a full point lower at 3.57. He's only giving up 1 home run and 2.3 walks per 9 innings, which 2.3 walks per 9 innings for his standards is way, way high, but honestly not necessarily the world's worst thing when you give up less than 1 walk per 9 innings. It means that guys know that a strike is coming. He's given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, but just like so many of these Seattle Mariners pitchers, because Seattle's very pitcher-friendly ballpark, has been significantly better when he's been at home. 3.42 home ERA. At home, he's only given up about 0.6 to 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, he's given up closer to about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings with a 5.74 ERA. And then for Kyle Hendricks, he's sort of a bend but don't break bad, but not absolutely awful pitcher. 4.58 ERA. Fielding dependent is about a 4.80. He's only getting 5.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Doesn't necessarily beat himself. 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He's given up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. And to his credit, in his last 3 starts, he's been able to fill 19 innings and has given up 3 runs. He's had 8 strikeouts, so he's pitching to a lot of contact, but I mean, somehow, some way, he's been pretty rock solid there. Has been a little bit worse when he has been on the road rather than when he's been in Los Angeles this year, as when he's been at home, it's a 4.33 ERA compared to 4.87 away from home, but still, you have to give a little bit of credit where it is due. For the LA Angels, this is just very much an all-or-nothing lineup. For the Angels, they're a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage, a top 5 team with regards to home runs on a per-at-bat basis, with having Joe Adell really setting fire to the rain this season. 35 home runs. He's hovering right around about a 305 with regards to that on-base. Taylor Ward, 315 on-base, 30 home runs. Even Mike Trout, he's hitting a 233 with the average, albeit 365 on-base, much better. 21 home runs. Logan O'Hoppe is really the textbook of what this Angels team is this year. 19 home runs, but a 260 on-base, so that's been a little bit brutal for them. And you've had Nolan Schunel dealing with a little bit of injury, so they've had some of these young guys like Matthew Lugo, Christian Moore, Bryce Sessuto, just really have not given you much on base whatsoever. And for the Seattle Mariners, it's a very much all or nothing lineup with them as well. Big jumper Cal Raleigh has been amazing with his 53 home runs and does provide a 355 on base, but feels like all of his hits either go over the fence or it doesn't give you too much of anything else. Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena have both been very good in terms of supplementary players. You've got Arozarena give you about a 343 on base, 27 home runs. Rodriguez, 30 bombs. He's been able to about a 270, and Ori Polanco is hitting about a 260. He's done a nice job being able to move the line, and he's been able to give you 23 plus home runs as well. It is a Seattle Mariners team that they just don't quite register the same amount of runs when they're away from home rather than at home. That's just because it's such a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but you do have a bullpen that is very top-heavy. The guys like Taylor Sato and company at the bottom are not great, but Edward Bizarro, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, all of a sub-250 ERA, Gabe Spire more around at 272. Do think that for the Mariners, they go out there, get the job done. I do think that Kyle Hendricks pitches to a little bit too much contact. I did set my total at some 0.8. I think that Kirby gives a good start at home, so like the under and the Mariners up to a minus 110 on that run line. 967, 968 on the card. The Braves play host the Houston Astros. From Valdez, it's on the bump for the Astros, and Joey Wentz hopes to have the Astros are wincing in pain, and for the Astros, you've got them as a favorite of anywhere between minus 135 to a minus 137, plus 112 to a plus 116. That number on Atlanta, 8.5 is the total. The over and under are anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and I set my total here at an 8.6. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. Man, it has just been a brutal season for Framber Valdez here in the second half, as he was getting things really rocking and rolling in the first half. It looked like he was going to be a top 5 pitcher in the American League, perhaps get like some 3rd, 4th place votes with regards to Cy Young voting, and he has now given up 4+ runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, so that's not great. 3.42 ERA, now 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He should be doing for a little bit of positivity, but that said, he does now have to go up against a Atlanta Braves team that has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break, post-All-Star break. This has been a top 12 team with that regard. You got him, Matt Olson, along with Marcell Ozuna, or both give you over a 350 on base. Ozuna's only hitting like a 230 with regards to the average, but have both been able to give you 20+ home runs. Ronald Acuna Jr. is doing a nice job moving the line. He's been able to give you over a 380 with regards to that on base. And for the Atlanta Braves, Drake Baldwin has been very good at the catcher spot. He and John Murphy have both been able to give you good power, but Murphy is hitting right around about a 200 at the Mendoza line, so you're going to need a little bit more of something there. And for Baldwin, more around about a 266 with those two guys combined for 31 home runs. Shortstop spot has been an issue all season long for the Atlanta Braves, and Michael Harris, 17 home runs, hitting at 240, but 265 on base has been a little bit of an issue. And then for the Houston Astros, you've got Jeremy Pena, who's been able to continue hit for a 300. He's been rock solid there. And Jose Altuve, so it looks like vintage Jose Altuve, 25 home runs, hitting at 265. Carlos Correa's moving the line, and do have to think that Yordan Alvarez coming into the fold is going to be able to help this team out a little bit, but when it comes down to it, for the Houston Astros, they do need to draw a few more walks. Christian Walker, 22 home runs, but less than a 305 on base. You've got Yunier Diaz hitting for like a 250, but only a 280 in terms of his on base as well. For the Astros, they are dealing with a few injuries with regards to that bullpen, as well as Josh Hader, Bennett Sosa have been a pair of really good relievers that are currently on the injury list. You still have the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Stephen Okert. These guys have been able to come out there, give you a sub 325 ERA, but now you're having to look to some more mix and match guys to be able to hold down the fort. Caleb Bourne has not necessarily had a great season. Logan Van Way, and it's been an issue. And for the Atlanta Braves, Raciel Iglesias has been not great this far this season. He and the Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, both posting up north of a 340 ERA. Dylan Lee has still been relatively solid for the season, but really outside of Pierce Johnson with his sub 250 ERA, there's been a lot of inconsistency out there as well. And for Joey Wentz, he's doing for a little bit of positivity. He's been a bit better ever since he joined the Atlanta Braves, as right now for our good friend and Mr. Wentz, he's posting up overall for the season between 3 teams that he's actually pitched for, so he's been all over the place with 561 ERA. It's only given up 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, 424 fielding dependent, but has really been doomed in by the fact that he's been giving up right around 4 walks per 9 innings. With the Braves, that drops to a 476 ERA with a 355 fielding independent, but that said, I do think that at the end of the day, the Astros do find a way to get the job done, and I think that Valdez gets a little bit more online. I did set my total here at an 8.6, so I'm in on the over, and with the money line at a minus 140 or better, I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Astros, 969, 970 on the board. It is the Royals on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Aaron Nola looks to be super for the Phils, and Noah Cameron is on the bump for the Royals. 9 is the total, over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and for the Phillies, minus 162 to minus 172 is that money line number. Meanwhile, you've got between plus 136 to plus 145 on the Royals if you're looking to lay a run half with the Phillies. Currently, that's a plus 138 to a plus 140 run line. I'm going to be willing to fire in there. I set mine at a plus 119. The Phillies have just been a completely different beast at home, and Noah Cameron is still doing for quite a bit of regression. It's been a really good rookie season for Noah Cameron, don't get me wrong. He's right now posting up a 3 ERA, but that's more of a 4.14 fielding dependent. Not too much of a strikeout guy, 7.2 strikeouts and 2.7 walks per 9 innings, and I mean, if you look at his 21 starts, he has given up 2 runs or fewer, and I believe all but 5 of them now, so that's been really good for the team, but again, he's now starting to give up a little bit of the deep ball. 1+ home run allowed in each out of his last 5 starts. And for Aaron Nola, it's been an all-over-the-place season for him. 6.24 ERA, coming off of his best start of the season. 6 scoreless innings against the Mets. They needed it because it was a 1-0 win for them. And he is probably doing for a bit of positivity. 480 fielding dependent. 9.5 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 innings. The 1.8 home runs per 9 innings are a bit of an issue, but now gets a face-off against a Royals team that's in the bottom 10 of the big leagues in terms of run creation, albeit they've been better here in the second half of the season, as you know now have 30 home runs and over 100 RBI out of Vinny Pasquantino. He's been able to bat at 260. Adam Frazier is also hitting at 260. Salvador Perez, 25 home runs, but he, Jonathan India, both hitting in the neighborhood of a 235. And then the guys at the bottom lineup, like Michael Massey, Jack Caglione, Jensen, the new DH, these guys have just not given you a ton. Mike Yastrzemski has 4 leadoff home runs for the team, but hasn't given you much else. You've had Bobby Witt Jr. supply 21 home runs, 350 on base. He's been rock solid, but for the Phillies, this team is averaging right around about 5.2 runs per game at home, about a full run per game less away from home, with Kyle Schwarber giving you the Schwarber bombs, 50 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 370 on base. Bryce Harper over a 350 on base, 26 home runs. Now, they are dealing with injuries with like Trey Turner being out of the fold. You do still have Harrison Bader, Max Kepler giving you 16 home runs apiece, and Bader a good 340 plus on base. Kepler not giving you that, but you know what? You saw Bryson Stott, who's been able to move the line for the team. They've had to mix and match a little bit at the bottom of the lineup, but the bullpen has been a bit better for the Phillies. Jose Alvarado, honestly, has not been great since coming off of the suspended list, but that said, Tanner Banks, Ryan Kerkering, Matt Strom, throw in there as well, Yuan Duran, who's been one of the best closers in all baseball. These guys have been able to give you sub 325 ERA, and for the Royals, this has been a top 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Lucas Erceg, Carlos Estevez, such a good 1-2 punch, both with a sub 280 ERA. John Schreiber's been a little bit up and down, but Daniel Lynch has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Having Steven Cruz on the injury list hurts this team a little bit, but I do think that the Phillies get to Cameron in this bye. I do think that they cover that run line, plus 120 or better. Looking at that Phillies run line, and I'm in on the over, so I told 9.2, 971, 972 on the card. It is the Tigers on the road against the Miami Marlins. We do know that Adam Mazur is going to be getting the start for the Marlins, and right now it's to be determined for the Tigers, so this game is off the board. The CBS projection was Tyler Melton, who's been primarily utilized as like a 2 to 3 inning reliever. He's made a few starts this season, so I'm sort of thinking that's a bullpen game with Tyler Melton contributing in some form of capacity. Maybe the starter, maybe a little bit more of a bulk guy, but in this case, set the Tigers at a minus 168 on the money line. I'd be willing to go up to minus 108 on their run line. We need at least plus 169 to take a shot on the Marlins, and set a total of 9.1, 9 or less. I'm in on the over, 9.5 or higher, the under. This is just a big giant fade of Adam Mazur, who I am stunned that there's a second team out there after he was with the San Diego Padres last year that deem him worthy of getting MLB starts right now. 6.30 ERA, 5.79 fielding dependent. He gets no strikeouts with 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's allowing 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. When he was with the Padres last year, rocked a 7.49 ERA. Was never really great at the minor league level. I just don't get it. But that said, it is what it is. And then for our good friend in Mr. Melton, I think that he's going to be able to go out there and hold down the fort. And I think I called him Tyler Melton. It's Troy Melton. So we apologize to Mr. Melton over there. But that said, he's been solid when he's been coming out of the bullpen for this team. As overall for the season at 2.50 ERA, he was good but not great at the minor league level. His fielding dependent of a 4.20 indicates a little bit of negativity. And it has been a Tigers bullpen that has been all over the place. Again, Melton is probably only going to give you a few innings. You now have Kyle Finnegan on the injured list for this team, and Tommy Kahnle has been absolutely terrible for this team, and Melton did pitch yesterday as well, so if he does end up actually going in this game, it's only going to be an inning or two, because I do think that this is just a very much wholesale bullpen game for the Detroit Tigers, but Will Vest has been able to give you sub 3.25 ERA. Rafael Montero in a Tigers uniform and a Tigers uniform only has not been bad overall for the season. He's spent some time with a few teams and he's been awful, but in a Tigers uniform at 2.70 ERA, so that's relatively solid. And for the Tigers, what you're really banking on here is this lineup, as on any given day they could throw out all but one guy hitting at least a 250. Typically that oddball Spencer Torkelson, who's been able to give you 28 home runs. He's been able to supply this team with an on-base percentage of about a 330. You've had over 30 home runs out of Riley Green. He's been able to about a 265. And then the likes of Wencio Perez, Cole Keith, Dylan Dingler, Zach McKinstry. You go down the list of guys hitting at least a 250 with 11 plus home runs out of pretty much all those guys. It's been rock solid. And for the Miami Marlins, they're still missing Kyle Stowers. That's their main home run hitter. You've only got one guy in the lineup with over 15 home runs, Augustin Ramirez. He's up to 19 to 20 home runs, but only about a 286 on base. Now, Jacob Marcy has been great at move the line, nearly a 4 on base. Xavier Edwards at the top has been able to hit about a 280 as well. And then Liam makes about a 350 on base, but this team is in the bottom 3 in the National League in terms of run creation at home, because it is very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and it's been been a bullpen that has been all over the place themselves. You've got the likes of Kate Gibson, Ronnie Enriquez, as well as Freddie Tarnok, who have been able to give you a sub-3.50 ERA, but Tarnok, he just hit the injured list. They've been dealing with a lot of guys dealing with injuries, and Tyler Phillips is on the paternity list, so he's not available for this appearance as well. That's bad because Adam Mazur is going to need all the bullpen help that he can get, and I do think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. Pretty much it should be a bullpen game for the Tigers. I was thinking that perhaps Melton would be able to give you some bulk, probably not because he pitched yesterday, but still doesn't really change the handicap here. Minus 167 or better, looking at the Tigers on the money line, probably would be looking more at that minus 108 or better run line, plus 169 or better, looking at the Fish, and then 9 or less in on the over 9.5 or the under. 973, 974 on the card. The Rangers are on the road against the Mets as Noah McLean is on the bump for the Mets. Jacob Latz is on the bump for Texas. Texas is back to being an underdog between plus 140 to plus 142 and between minus 165 to a minus 172. That number on the Mets. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8. Over is minus 120. The under is even on the 8.5. Under is minus 120. Over is even. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Rangers. Plus 140 or better. Sign me up there. Jacob Latz has actually been really good for this Texas Rangers team as far as the season. As for Latz, he's spent some time as a starter, spent some time coming out of the bullpen. 291 ERA with 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but he's actually been better in the role of a starter. 273 ERA, 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Go back to that start that he had a few months ago against the Orioles. 6 no-hit innings, so this guy can give you some length as well, so you feel good there. Noah McLean, 5 starts, 5 runs allowed, 9.4 strikeouts to fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings, 1 home run allowed in 31 2/3 innings. He has been absolutely magnificent for the New York Mets. Now, what has not been magnificent for the Mets has been the bullpen, as Ryan Helsley, ever since coming to town, has been rocking well north of 5 ERA. Gregory Soto is starting to poop the bed for this team. Of course he is. Now, Edwin Diaz continues to be rock solid, but Reed Garrett has been really not doing a great job. Oscar Brzobin has been all over the place. For the Mets, they're really needing to slug their way to victory. Francisco Alvarez coming back in the lineup, hitting for about a 333 on base is rock solid, and then got Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor in the neighborhood of a 260 to 265. Juan Soto is as well, but Soto, 39 home runs at a 400 on base. That's rock solid. Lindor, more like 26 home runs. Nimmo in the neighborhood of about 22 to 23 bombs. But I mean, overall, it's a rock solid lineup. Pete Alonso, 30 plus bombs, 345 on base. And for the Rangers, since the beginning of the month of July, they're averaging over 4.8 runs per game, but still deal with a lot of injuries. You've got Marcus Semien out of the fold. You've been dealing with the injury to Corey Seager as well. Having Evan Carter out for the rest of the season is rough. The Josh Smith, Josh Young are both hitting above a 250 though. And Jake Berger, ever since the All-Star break, he has been very rock solid. You take a look at what Jake Berger has been able to do since he's come off the injury list. 4 home runs in 41 at-bats entering into yesterday, hitting above a 300. He's been able to give this team a nice spark. Rowdy Tellez, whenever he's been out there, has been solid. And you've been able to get some really good production over the last few days out of Michael Hellman. Michael Hellman has been able to give you like 2 home runs in his last 5 games, so you're certainly going to take that. And for the Rangers, they do have the better bullpen in this spot. They have been a top 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got the likes of a Chris Martin, Robert Garcia, Sean Armstrong, who have all been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA for the season. Hobie Milner is starting to act up a little bit, and Phil Matone, ever since he's gotten to town, has not been great overall for the season. A sub 3 ERA, but in a Rangers uniform, he's had some struggles, but do think that should be taking northward a little bit. Do think that Nolan McLean might be doing for a little bit of regression, but do think that you get a good start out of both of these guys at a plus 140 or better. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Rangers on the money line, and my total is 7.9, so I like the under. 975, 976 on the card. It is the Diamondbacks, and they're on the road. They're facing off against the Minnesota Twins as Bailey Ober goes for the Twins. Nabil Krismet is on the bump for Arizona, and Arizona finds themselves as the underdog of anywhere between plus 108 to a plus 110, minus 125 to a minus 132. Then number on Minnesota with a total of 9. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 115. Overs between minus 105 to a minus 110, and I'm going to go up to a minus 127 with the Minnesota Twins on the money line. With both of these teams, the bullpen is so rough. Like, for the Minnesota Twins, you trade away all these good guys like Yohan Duran. You had out there the likes of a Brock and Roll Stewart, and now you're relying upon Cody Funderburk, Michael Tonkin. So many guys are posting up an ERA well above a 375. That's not even funny. Cole Sands, Justin Topa has been dealing with a little bit of injury as well. So, I mean, that's not amazing. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Andrew Saalfrank has been rock solid. He's been able to give this team a ERA that is below a 3 out there in the bullpen, but then you've got so many guys like a Ryan Thompson who's been dealing with a lot of injury, Juan Murillo, Jake Woodford. These guys have been giving you well above a 4 ERA all season long. I will say John Curtis with 2 S's has not necessarily been too bad. And for the Diamondbacks, this continues to be a top 8 team in terms of run creation, as Corbin Carroll's been able to give you 30 home runs. He's hitting above a 250. You've had Ketel Marte of Marte Parte along Geraldo Perdomo. Both do a nice job moving the line. Both of these guys are above a 380 with regards to their on base. And for Mr. Marte, he's been able to spy 25 home runs, but now he's been dealing with a little bit of injury. He was out yesterday, so something that you want to be noting. Pavin Smith is out for the season, so this is a little bit more of a bare bones team, but some of the young guys, like a Blaze Alexander, has stepped up. He's been able to give you about a 340 on base. You've got Gabriel Moreno off the injury list. He's been hitting above a 270 as well. You still have a Wiley veteran, James McCann, who's able to DH for the team as well, but on the flip side for the Minnesota Twins, it's become a little bit of an all-or-nothing lineup in that they traded away a lot of guys at the deadline that were able to get on base and move the line. Like, you still have someone like Matt Wallner who's been able to give 20 plus home runs, but he's hitting below a 210 with regards to the average, albeit the on base percentage hovering more in the neighborhood about a 310, but you could use a little bit more there. Cody Clemens had himself a 3 home run game about 48 or so hours ago, but he's hitting a 213 with less than a 285 on base, getting 19 home runs this season. Byron Buxton has been one of your main constants, nearly a 340 on base, 31 home runs, has been rock solid there. Trevor Larnach hitting about a 250 with 16 home runs, and Lucas Schell, hopefully I said that correct, he's been hitting well above a 300, but forgettable season for Royce Lewis, James Outman at the bottom of the fold. These guys have been relatively rough, so it does lead to a very interesting circumstance with a guy in Ober who's just had an absolutely miserable season this far this season. For Bailey Ober, he's giving up darn near 2 home runs per 9 innings. He's only given up 1.9 walks per 9, but he's typically sitting around about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 7.3 strikeouts per 9. That's led to a 5.08 ERA, 5.18 fielding dependent, albeit last start was much better on the road against the Royals, giving up 1 run there, and he's really had his struggles when he's been in Minnesota this season. A little bit of the opposite of what we typically see from Ober. 4.65 ERA at home, and at home he has given up over 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. And then on the flip side, you've got a guy in Nabel Chrismet who he was a long reliever for the longest time with San Diego's Padres. He's been a little bit of a journeyman, and he's been solid in the starts that he's given the Diamondbacks. He's pitching to a lot of contact, 6.1 strikeouts at 2.5 walks per 9 innings, but a 3.24 ERA, the 4.18 fielding dependent does indicate there might be a little bit of regression, and I was giving up 4 plus runs in 2 out of his last 3 starts, so in that start against the Brewers, quite a few of those were unearned runs, but I do think that we are going to be able to get some scoring up on the board in this one. Did semi-total at an 8.9. I do think that the 9, a little bit too lofty, starting to get a little bit colder out there in the great state of Minnesota, so balls that might have been flying out in June and July might not be now, so looking at that 9 under. And for the Minnesota Twins, set their money line at a minus 127. We'll lay up to a minus 126 there. 977, 978 on the card. It is the Cubs, and they're going to be playing those the Tampa Bay Rays. Adrian, don't call him Doogie Howser, is on the bump for the Rays, and Shota Imanaga goes for the Cubs. As of right now, there's no total up on the game because of the Wrigley Field win situation, but minus 162 to minus 172. That number on the Cubs, plus 136 to a plus 145 is that number on the Tampa Bay Rays. And if you're looking at the current win situation, looks like it should be blowing more directionally towards the beginning part of the game, and then once you get into the game, it's going to be blowing more and more in. So this does have me right now with this total at 7.8, 7.5 or less, in on the over, and 8 or higher to the under. If this changes a little bit, if it looks like it's going to be blowing out a little bit more towards first pitch, I probably will move this up a half a run. That's the game that you play with the Wrigley Field win situation. But as of right now, 7.5 or less to the over, 8 or higher to the under. And if I do change it, I will note that on the spreadsheet link that I've got in the description box wherever you get this podcast. But for Shota Imanaga, he has been dealing with just a lot of contact in general given up this season. He's got a relatively low ERA, but I've been saying it for a while that he's been doing for regression, and he is starting to experience it. 3.21 ERA, but feeling a pen of a 4.55. He's given up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, 7 strikeouts per 9, and has now given up 3 plus runs in each out of his last 3 starts, and he's given up 5 home runs in the last 3 starts. Now, 2 of those starts were on the road, and you look at Imanaga, it feels like he's been pitching in Wrigley Field when the wind has been blowing in a lot. That's a big reason why he has been able to post up the 3.12 ERA that he's had, but even at Wrigley Field, he's been giving up about 1.7 or so home runs per 9 innings, and Adrian Hauser was pitching incredible when he was with the Chicago White Sox, and that is toiletable ever since he's gotten to the Tampa Bay Rays. With the White Sox, was posting up a 2.10 ERA, was only getting 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but only gave up like 3 home runs at 68 2/3 innings. Now 5 bombs given up in 38 1/3 innings with the Tampa Bay Rays, and that ERA has hiked up to a 4.93. It's been a little bit unlucky with the Rays, was super fortunate with the White Sox, so we're seeing course correction, has given up 3 plus runs in 3 of his last 4 starts, and Though the Cubs have been a bottom 6 lineup in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break, they're starting to get it going a little bit more now, and overall for the season, still a top 8 team in terms of run scoring. Just been a case where so many of these guys that were so good at the beginning part of the season, Pete Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, they have been stuck on 27 and 28 home runs, or respectively, for a very, very long time. They're looking to some of these young guys like Moises Ballesteros, got his first home run yesterday. He has been rock solid for the team. Owen Cassidy is not necessarily panned out quite yet, but I do think that he's going to be rising up. But Matt Shawn has 9 home runs ever since the All-Star break. That actually leads the team. Michael Busch was able to go deep yesterday. He's been able to give you 335 on base. You're dealing now with the injury to Kyle Tucker, though, so that takes a little bit out of you. Nico Horner has continued it above a 300 since the All-Star break, though. And for the Rays, this continues to be a top 12 team in terms of run creation. You got Junior Caminero not drawing a lot of walks, but hitting for a 260 with 43 home runs. You're going to take that. Brandon Lau, he's been able to get Loud 20 plus home runs. He's hitting at 260. Yandy Diaz over 20 bombs with a 350 on base. And the team just swipes bags. Like Jake Magnum, over 22 stolen bases. He's hitting at 300. You've had darn near 40 stolen bases out of Chandler Simpson. He's been able to about a 295. So a lot of guys moving line. The shortstop spot and the catcher spot have not been great for the Rays, to say the least. And the bullpen has been a little bit of venture for them as well. Brian Baker, Griffin Jacks, both above a 350 ERA, and they had to use up Pete Fairbanks for 25 pitches yesterday. But here, your Clevenger, Eric Orze have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. And for the Cubs, they had to use up a lot of their trustworthy relievers yesterday as well. But the likes of Caleb Theobar, Daniel Palencia, Brad Keller, Drew Pomerantz have been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA, albeit Palencia has had a little bit of a rough go of it recently. But it leads to a very interesting circumstance here. Like I said, as long as the wind is blowing in like I think it is, 7.5 or less, looking at the over 8 or higher to the under, might switch that to an 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under based on the situation. But set the Cubs on the money line at a minus 172, would need at least plus 113 to get there on the run line. I fully anticipate when it's said and done, I do get that Cubs run line, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Athletics play host to the Reds as we are on to Cincinnati, and they're on to Nick Lodolo getting the start, and it is going to be Luis Morales going for the Athletics. Right now with the Reds, they are between minus 108 to minus 110 on the money line, between minus 108 to minus 110 on the Athletics. So relative pick'em game, 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 115 to minus 120. Over is between even to minus 105. Made my total at 9.3. I'm going to be looking at the under for Nick Lodolo. He's actually seen a big dip with regards to his strikeout numbers this season, only getting 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's a career low for him, but he has really been able to excel in not beating himself, as he's giving up just a hair over a 1 home run per 9 innings, just 1.7 walks per 9 innings. Big reason why he's been able to supply the ERA that he has thus far this season with a 3.10. And then Luis Morales, he's been really good in his small sample size. He has made, I believe now, 7 total appearances, 6 starts, 273 ERA. The 3.3 walks per 9 innings, he needs to tone down a little bit, but a lot of those came in that first start against the Baltimore Orioles where he walked like 5 and 3 2/3 innings. He's been giving up 1.1 home runs, 8.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, so the fielding depending quite a bit higher than the 273, but he's been rock solid, and he's much more trustworthy than this Athletics bullpen. As the Athletics bullpen continues to be in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of ERA, you've been able to have a few guys be able to step up. Michael Kelly, Sean Newcomb, these guys have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA, and then Elvis Alvarado gives you more like a 375 ERA. Justin Sterner has not necessarily been the world's worst out there in the bullpen, but Osvaldo Bido has been utilized as both a starter and a long reliever, has been posting up well above a 4.5 ERA, and then you got so many other guys posting up an ERA above a 4. Ben Bowden, TJ McFarland, along with Tyler Ferguson. These guys have been very untrustworthy. Flip side for the Cincinnati Reds, it's not a great bullpen, it's not a terrible bullpen, and I mean, that's just this whole Reds team. They've got a lot of guys that they just do their job. They're not going to wow you, they're not amazing, they're not awful. Emilio Pagan, Zachary Maxwell, Tony Santillan posting up an ERA below a 340. Luis continues to be at the minor league level, and Connor Phillips, Graham Ashcraft in that neighbor about a 370 ERA. You could use a little bit better there, but it's not the world's worst. And for the Reds, you don't have anyone on the roster above 20 home runs. Elliot De La Cruz, he's been stuck on 19 home runs for Neon. He's been giving you about a 333 on base, but you still have plenty of guys that they just find a way to move the line, get on base, as you've got a quartet of guys that are in the top 7 with regards to at-bats, hanging between a 264 to a 266. De La Cruz is one of them. Gavin Lux, Austin Hayes, and TJ Friedel are in there as well. And then Friedel's been able to give you about a 370 on base. You've had Navoli Marte, do a nice job stepping up, giving this team a 275 average, 12 bombs, and less than 300 at-bats. You've been able to get some good at-bats out of the catcher spot as well. Tyler Stevenson has been an issue, but Jose Trevino, he's been able to about a 250 as well, so leads to a very interesting circumstance. I do think that this is a well-pitched game, so my total 9.3, despite the fact that the A's have been a top 8 team in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. You've got a quartet of guys who have been able to supply this team with at least 24 home runs. Tyler Soderstrom, Brent Rooker, Shea Langeliers, and Nick Kurtz. Langeliers and Kurtz both had 30 bombs, and for Kurtz, a 390 on base. You continue to have Jacob Wilson hit for about a 315, but the concern for this team is the bottom of the lineup. The wrong Max Muncy, JJ Bleday, Max Schubman, a lot of guys carrying a 235 or lower for this team. You just have not been able to get a lot there. Kobe Thomas has been a very much hit or miss guy. Zach Loff is hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200 as well, so I'm going to be looking at that 9.5 under, and for the Reds, up to a minus 117 is what I'm going to lay on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Chris Cichon. He does an amazing job over at WBAL in Baltimore. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to throw those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUNet_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season into the postseason, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
Introducing new Sylvania LED Ultra Fog and Power Sport lights. This powerful upgrade delivers cool white clarity and crisp visibility on the road ahead, so you can reignite the love for your car with lights that make it feel like day one. And built with a compact design for a DIY install, these fog lights are backed by over 100 years of lighting expertise to bring you LED Ultra night vision and help you see better at night. It's time to fall for your car all over again. Sylvania, light that lasts.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac Extra Value Meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.